Okay, good day everyone. In my former audio, I discussed what is a human being, and today I believe, as a follow up, I would discuss in this audio what is a beast or what is an animal, because the word beast is also animal. So then, let's begin. In Genesis chapter 1, you will read the first mention of God who created beasts or animals. They are recognized as the fish, great whales, and living creatures that move in the sea, as you can see in Genesis chapter 1, verse 21, and Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. Also, you could see the fowl of the air, as recorded in Genesis chapter 1, verse 21. You'll also see the cattle, the beasts of the field, and also the creeping thing that creeps upon the earth, as you can see in Genesis chapter 1, verse 24. God also blesses every creature in the beginning with the consent of being fruitful and multiplying, as you can read in Genesis chapter 1, verses 21 through 26. So, animals do have the male and female gender, as you can see in Genesis chapter 7, verses 14 to 16, and they were created to mate with or multiply with one another. Now, we know that by Genesis chapter 1 that God did not create animals or beasts to be the same kinds of which he created male and female human beings. For example, God never uttered that animals or beasts were created in his image after his likeness, neither in his likeness after his image. These words were only reserved for and expressed towards the male and female human beings. Furthermore, God never intended for animals or beasts to replenish the earth and to subdue it. So animals were never meant to have any kind of rule on the earth in relation to mankind. However, there is something you should know. God does identify every animal or beast to be a living creature. Yes, it may not seem much when you read it, but considering that the living creature means living soul will also help you understand that even as a male and female human being is a living soul, as I made mention of in my former audio that is called What is a Human Being, referring to from Genesis chapter 2 verse 7. So are animals. So yes, animals are also living souls. They are living souls, but not as living souls like human beings. So yes, animals have the breath of life from God within them, as you could see in Genesis chapter 7, verses 21 to 22, and Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 21. Hence again, they are counted as living souls. Now, these living souls, which are animals, also have bodies, and by their bodies, they are animated or alive on earth, and they do as they please. Now, I say that animals do as they please because animals are souls, and souls have understanding. God said to them from the beginning to be fruitful and multiply. They understood and acted upon the word of God towards them. So, just as a human being, it is by their body that an animal or beast is able to procreate on earth. Furthermore, each body of an animal differs. Hence, biblically, a body is also called flesh, and each flesh differs or varies. You could read that in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 39. It is also by their body that an animal is able to eat. For we see written of the animals of the field, the air, and also those that creep on the earth in Genesis chapter 1, verse 30, that their food was created by God to be the green colored plants. Now, the animals of the sea were not made mention of in relation to what they eat. And for that, I would say that these animals of the sea were able to eat both herbs or flesh, or maybe something else. In relation to that, I consider what is written of the sea creature named Leviathan or Leviathan. It was a dragon, yes, a dragon, that preyed on or hunted human beings, or rather the ships, as we could see it in Psalms chapter 104, verses 25 to 26, and also in Job chapter 41. Now, even though God declared that the green colored plants were the food of many animals across the Bible, and even today, we see differently. The reason is because every animal was cursed by God after a serpent or a snake lured the first two human beings to do wrong against God, directly and indirectly. So yes, we see in Genesis chapter 3 verse 14 that God cursed the serpent above all cattle and above all beasts of the field. And if you consider diligently, you would realize that God cursed the serpent, or a snake in general, above all cattle and every beast of the field. So that means every cattle and every beast of the field was already cursed. But the serpent was cursed above them all. Now, to those who do not know what a curse is the opposite of a blessing. Just as a blessing is to adore something with consent of good things happening on its behalf, a curse is to abhor or to despise something with the consent of evil things happening on its behalf, and each curse may vary. Now, I will not go into too much details, but the very reason every animal was cursed was because the first two human beings were no longer the children of God. As I have mentioned in the former audios, that mankind died in relation to them being a child of God. For when God created animals, it was the children of God who were supposed to dominate or rule over them. Therefore, the first two human beings no longer being the children of God, had the animals not been cursed, they would in no wise be able to be dominated by human beings. This is why it is written of in Romans chapter 8, verse 19 to 22, that the creatures or animals of God look forward to the children of God being manifested or at work on the earth once more. So yes, animals were created to be dominated by human beings or ruled over by human beings. And animals are very much aware of this from the first decree of God concerning this in Genesis chapter 1 verse 28. Nevertheless, by choice, it is not every animal that agrees and acts on what God has said. For as a living soul that is a human being, and we have reasoning, so do they. So as I mentioned concerning the serpent or snake in Genesis chapter 3 earlier, this is the very first rebellion of an animal we see written of. Now, upon reading such, we might say, how is it that the serpent was speaking to the female human being? And my answer is simple. God created mankind to be just like God. So as God spoke of animals and they became existent, and then God spoke of what they should be on earth, how they should live, and they all understood, so it is a light thing for a human being and an animal to converse or to speak to one another. Nevertheless, I bring to your remembrance again that both the male and female human beings died in relation to them being the children of God. And with that comes many defects or corruption in what a human being is. For even from the time in the beginning, God also interrupted the one dialect or speech that mankind had from the beginning and divided it into many, as you could see in Genesis chapter 11, verses 1 through 9. Hence the reason for many languages in the world today. Also, in relation to animals, consider again what I said of in Romans chapter 8, verses 19 to 22. Because it says that every animal was cursed on or made corrupted by God from the time declared of in Genesis chapter 3. So just as I spoke of an animal's rebellion, now let us make mention of an animal's obedience. We see of an animal obeying God in Genesis chapter 7, verses 1 through 9. We also see animals being named in the sense of being identified as something by a human being. And it remained to this day, as you could see in Genesis chapter 2, verses 19 to 20. Because although God created them, He did not name them. For example, God created a dog, but God did not call a dog, dog. The man Adam did such. We also see of an animal obeying and caring deeply for her male owner or master in Numbers chapter 22. But in order for you to see the full account, read Numbers chapters 22 through chapter 24. I will also give a brief account of what is written of in Numbers in relation to that. So, there was a disobedient owner of a female donkey who failed to see an angel of God who stood in the way of the owner who rode the donkey. The donkey took actions to deviate or to turn from the path that the owner wanted her to go. Furthermore, by the power of God, this donkey was given the privilege to speak as mankind speaks in order to minister to the owner, to talk to the owner. Now consider this very carefully, that the donkey was not given knowledge added to what it already has, but rather it was given the privilege to speak in order for her owner to understand. And I say her because it was a female donkey. The angel says that. I say this because we see clearly that the donkey had memory from the first time her owner was given to her, as well as meekness to obey her owner from the time of her youth when given to him. The male owner did not deny any of the words spoken of by the donkey because her words were true or sincere. So, yes, animals as human beings have understanding, reasonings, make choices, and hold certain memories. Nevertheless, being that animals were not created to be as God, as mankind was, animals are living souls with restricted or limited understanding. An example of this is expressed in Job chapter 49, verses 1 through 17, concerning an animal which does not know or consider the danger of its eggs, although within the eggs are its offsprings, or its little ones. Now, regardless of their limited understanding, I want you to also reflect on the account of the donkey which I spoke of in Numbers chapter 22. For, by the privileged human speech of the donkey, we see that the donkey could identify a spirit, and that spirit was an angel. I have heard of cases of animals behaving abnormal at times, and it's sometimes because they see things that we human beings do not usually see. Just as the donkey's owner could not see the angel, although the donkey could, because after all, God did not open the eyes of the donkey or the mind of the donkey. God only opened the mouth of the donkey. So animals are also tuned to spiritual affairs. For animals, even as every other thing, were created by God who is a spirit. So it's only natural. Hence it is written, "Let everything that has breath praise the Lord. Praise ye the Lord." In Psalms chapter 150, verse 6. Now, when the spirit or breath of life of animals depart from them, they are counted as dead, as you could see in Genesis chapter 7, verses 21 to 22. I can say also that animals are still active after the death because of the expression of them from a vision in Acts chapter 10, verses 9 through 13. For although the essence of that vision was not concerning animals, yet it can and should be acknowledged, because after all, the animals came down from heaven and returned into heaven, as you could see in some verses after. There is also a prophecy of animals in Isaiah chapter 65, verses 17 to 25. All these things I will get into someday, but for now, this concludes my audio as pertaining to what is a beast or an animal. I hope you learned plenty today, and please do not keep this knowledge to yourself. Please share it out. Please like the audio as well as subscribe. Thank you and much appreciated.